Welcome to the Pothole Diaries. Oh my goodness me, wow. Hello there folks, I'm Dan Brown from sortofinteresting.com. Today you're joining me on my humble little narrowboat home, Abel's Ark, but for once in my life, today I'm going to stop talking about boats and instead we're going to take a look at this, my new Boardman Team Carbon bike. Right then my friends, I did have a nice little opening canal side section and chat for you here, but sadly there were helicopters buzzing around overhead and boats going by, so we ran away down the country lanes of Shropshire to Tetchell. And well, as we have a proper closer look at the bike here, I suppose I should give you my in a nutshell thoughts. Basically, I love this bike. It's literally shaving minutes off all of my commutes to and from the boat to go and see family, to see friends, and occasionally go to work. And you're talking sometimes, the first ride I suppose sums it up. First bike ride that I did on this bike was the same route that I'd done on my previous bike, a Mango Bikes steel framed geared bike. It took me 34 minutes on the previous bike. The following night, my first time out on this bike, it took me 26 minutes. So it took 8 minutes off a ride that wasn't even 40 minutes to begin with. And that's the sort of performance increase and speed increase I've seen all over the place with my riding on the towpath and all sorts of road surfaces. It's holding up very well so far. You may have seen me do that little gesture then with the handlebars. Some people may look at this and immediately be thinking, why on earth has he got those bars at such a weird angle? And well, basically it's a bad habit that I probably picked up years ago. I just prefer to have them tilted upwards, so as I lean forwards I feel almost like the bars are leaning back against me. And even on things like my previous fixie and single speed bikes with bullhorn bars, I had those tilting upwards as well. So I don't know, it's just a personal preference that's probably bad form. Another personal preference I'll just draw your attention to. These are just simple £5 plastic flat pedals. It came with foot straps on the original pedals, but because I do so much getting on and off and stopping and starting when I'm out on my bike in the countryside, and particularly if I'm out and about trying to do little videos and taking pictures, I'm not really interested personally in being strapped to the bike. I haven't got to get anywhere quite as fast as that, and I'm not trying to break any speed records or anything. And equally, I'm not interested in getting proper clips and shoes that are made for the job, because as I say, I spend a lot of time out and about on my bike and also on my feet when I'm on my bike. When I'm not on my bike, you know what I'm trying to say there. Anyway, just of note, forgive my pronunciations, it's a 20 geared bike, so 2 big cogs on the front and 10 on the back. It's a Shimano Tiagra gear set, if that's the correct pronunciation. And then I think, is it Tektro caliper brakes it's got? I think that's the pronunciation again. And then Vittoria Zafiro Pro 700 by 25C tyres here. And that's something that immediately, to me, who's not used to having a slightly fancy bike like this, with a carbon frame and all the rest of it, which we'll talk about in just a second, just the tyres shocked me compared to all the bikes I've had in the past that have been maybe a couple of £100. That's something I suppose. Actually, let's talk about that right now. The retail price of this bike is £900. Now I didn't pay that luckily, but I did pay this with my own money, as previously, just for clarity's sake, Mango Bikes did send me 2 bikes for free just to appear in videos and what have you, but unfortunately this was actually bought with my own money. And I don't come from a world where people spend £900 on bikes, so it took me an awful lot of time to actually decide to buy this bike. And I literally went through phases of getting as far as ordering it and having it in the checkout ready to click order, and then chickening out. And I actually ordered a cheaper bike for about £200 and then cancelled that, and then went back to this. I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. And so this review, I suppose, and all these video clips and thoughts are from the viewpoint of somebody who's put thousands of miles a year in on a bike for many years at this point. I lived on a boat for 4 years, then I had 2 years up until a month ago living on dry land. So the amount of cycling that I did on single speed and fixed gear bikes, on actual geared bikes, it was unbelievable, the amount of cycling as I was moving around on the boat, and I'd be going back to work So I was literally putting in thousands of miles a year on a bike for many years, and will continue to do so, hopefully. So I've got, possibly I would describe as, more stamina and more strength in my legs than the average person may have. But I equally have no experience previously of carbon framed bikes that cost nearly £1,000, as again, it absolutely killed me to finally buy this bike. But when it turned up and I got out on it, first thing that I noticed when I took the box off the delivery chap was how light it was, even in the box with all of the packaging. As I say, this is 9 kilograms compared to my previous geared bike being 12.5 kilograms, and that weight difference, it may not seem like a lot to say 3.5 kilograms, it may seem like a lot to some people, I'm not sure, but I would say that even just the handling the bike before you're riding it, in my particular case where I live on a boat, so I'm putting the bike on and off the roof to store it, and then, well, I've been out on the canal moving up and down, well, I'm out of the marina, I've been fetching it inside overnight for extra security, so something like that. You can imagine losing that much weight off the bike, so it's so much easier to lift it up onto the roof, to move it around, to fetch it inside. That alone is an unbelievable bonus to my day-to-day life, to be honest. But then, the actual experience of riding it, and as I say, shaving all of these minutes off left, right and centre, without feeling like I'd done particularly, well, I hadn't put much effort into some of these rides, so I'm really looking forward to when I'm not taking supplies to and from the boat or anything like that, and I'm just out for pure pleasure, just really opening this bike up and seeing what sort of speeds I can get to on flats and stuff like that. I'm really looking forward to that, because so far, even taking, like I say, flipping bottles of pop and tins of soup and stuff like that in my backpack, it's amazing how much faster I've been on this bike and how much easier I've found it, well, being so much faster, if that makes sense. Let's think, what else is there to say? There's so much to say, but also it's so very difficult to say it because, as I say, I'm not a person who's familiar with these high-end bikes, and I know there's people out there who'll be looking at this going, oh, flipping heck, you want to spend some real money on a bike. But as I say, this isn't the world that I come from. This is the fanciest bike by quite some margin that I've ever ridden. Again, things like the brakes and that I feel absolutely no problem with. And again, you can tighten or loosen them to however you like to have the stopping power and how much you pull on the gears to stop and all that. The gears and that as well, I've found absolutely no issue with. I did just a slight little adjustment to them the other day after I'd been riding it for a week or so, and they are absolutely perfect, and they snap into place as soon as you're changing them. So again, no issues there. But again, that's the sort of thing that you can tinker with and sort out and get to your own sort of preference if they're starting to be a little bit slow or not quite clicking into place when you want them to. But ultimately, I've got to say, I just love this bike, and the difference that it is making to my day-to-day life. As I say, I mean, I'm at the moment been out and about on the canal for the last couple of weeks, so I've been cycling down different roads to get to work and to see my friends and stuff like that. So as I move, there's different road surfaces, there's a lot of potholes about at the moment, that's the biggest issue that you have with a road bike, really, I suppose, that your tyres are that rock hard. I know you can take some of the pressure out of them, but even that, with these little road bike tyres, you're still on a bumpy old bone shaker, I suppose, of a bike ride. And because the road surfaces are so bad in some places, that does see me deliberately slowing down. So even though I've got this incredible roll-in speed, and this, again, that's one of the things that I noticed with this bike. The roll-in resistance is so much lower than anything that I've previously ridden that, again, that obviously helps build up the speed from a standing start very quickly. But also, just freewheeling downhill, I can feel how fast I'm going. And I almost am finding that I'm taking unusual lines. Like at the start of this video, you saw me on the path through the field. And that I went onto the grass because I didn't have the confidence to stick on the gravelly track because I had so much speed that I was carrying through with me that ultimately I felt like it might slip from underneath me, even though I've got no reason to really believe that. It's just that I'm simply not used to having this sort of speed at my disposal. And again, as we go down this downhill section here, you'll see that I'm all over the road. I'm braking at some point as well down this part, because I'm just not used to taking these roads at these sort of speeds. And anybody who's watched my videos previously, you'll know just how many times, I mean it's probably thousands of times, at the very least many hundreds of times that I've been down roads like this, past the hill fort at Oswestry and that, and yet this is the first time that I've had such ease to go straight down, all over the road and then straight back up. So yeah, ultimately, in a nutshell, I suppose what I'm trying to say is, I quite like this bike. I'll wrap things up and say thank you so much for tuning in. Please do check out my other videos and subscribe and hit that notification bell if you haven't already, for loads of the great outdoors and life on a boat and all sorts of other stuff like this. And ultimately I'm going to be throwing in a few little bike ride videos. I've got a GoPro Hero 6 which you've been seeing the footage from here, so it's very stable, much nicer footage to watch than my previous GoPro with the image bouncing around all over the place on the poor road surfaces. But yeah, if you're very interested in boat life, please consider checking out my short books available for the Kindle and for as a paperback. Sorry, I'm struggling to get my words out. I'm wondering what words are coming out next here. But ultimately, check the links in the description. You'll find me books. Subscribe for more of this sort of outdoorsy stuff. And of course, my friends, have an absolutely fantastic day. Keep it interesting, keep it bike worthy, keep it boat worthy. And of course, my friends, farewell.